Hi everyone, meet me again with me Ilhan. I will tell the storyline of the film The Parts You Lose, released in 2019. The film begins by showing a boy named Wesley. He always sits in the back seat on the school bus that picks him up every day. On the way to school, Wesley will definitely always be bullied by the village children, but he never retaliates and prefers to ignore them as a child who was born deaf. Wesley was taught sign language along with other disabilities. His shortcomings made his classmates like to bully and laugh at him. Wesley's house is quite far from the paved road, so he has to walk through the forest to go home, even though he is different from his normal younger sibling. But his mother still treats Wesley as a special child. Even she always accompanies him to play to make him happy. Only his mother is the only place for Wesley where he feels safe. A few days later, not far from his house, a group of police officers appeared to be investigating. Who knows what happened, but this incident was the first time. When Wesley returned home, he found a car parked that he recognized, which was none other than his father's car named Ronnie, who had just come home. Wesley's expression looked tense, but he still tried to be polite. As dinner approached, the mother told the children that tomorrow she had to go to their grandmother's house. That meant the children would be taken care of by their father while she was away. Ronnie then talked about an incident that had recently been investigated by the police. It was said that there had been a robbery that resulted in 4 victims dying. The next day, Ronnie prepared Wesley's breakfast after his mother left. He then got bullied at school, as he usually did. However, on the way home, Wesley found something surprising. A body lying in the snow signaled him to be quiet. Wesley, who was scared, immediately ran to tell his father. Ronnie, who was busy, was forced to follow without understanding what her son meant. Unfortunately, the figure had disappeared who knows where. Ronnie became annoyed because she thought Wesley was lying. That night, the dinner atmosphere seemed gloomy without her mother. The father asked for salt, but Wesley, who was deaf, certainly didn't hear it. Ronnie, who was still upset, then hit the table with all her might. Late at night, Wesley was still thinking about it, so he tried to find the man in the middle of the forest. The figure turned out to be still lying unconscious. Wesley, who felt sorry for him, dragged him with all his might to an unused warehouse. Not long after, Wesley gave the man a sign to be quiet when he woke up. Until morning came, Wesley apparently remained on guard. He only responded with signs when the man spoke to him. The man then understood that Wesley was deaf and could only read his lips. Seeing the man's injured stomach, Wesley quietly took the medicine and bandages he had. Meanwhile, his father and his friend were repairing the tractor. Wesley, who was running around, tried to be called, but he did not hear. By taking a detour, Wesley returned to the warehouse so the man could immediately stop the bleeding. While enduring the pain, the man stitched his own wound without help. The man then asked Wesley to bring him food tonight. Towards evening, a robbery near their house was reported. This made Wesley's mother worried because so far there had never been a crime. While his parents' attention was diverted, Wesley put the food in his bag. His father then said goodbye because he had to meet someone in town. He was not sure how long he would be gone that night. Wesley immediately delivered the food he had hidden. The man praised Wesley's mother's delicious cooking like in a restaurant. Not long after, the sound of a helicopter flying was clearly heard. The man then gave Wesley the task of immediately meeting someone. After walking through the forest, Wesley finally arrived at a bar. He then put a ring as a sign that was then found by an old driver. Wesley was asked to get into the truck to talk privately. The old driver said that he needed time so that the police would not be suspicious. The man would be picked up as soon as possible when the time came. The police were still patrolling day and night to find him. After returning, Wesley then handed over the cell phone that the old driver had given him. The man was certainly disappointed because he had to hide longer. On his school holidays, Wesley brought a blanket and clothes for the man. He felt happy to do it because he was always appreciated. In order to speed up his recovery, the man began to try to exercise. Seeing this, Wesley became interested in imitating him. The man even helped him without looking down on him. This was the first time Wesley had met someone who wanted to play with him after returning how he was at school. He understood very well that every child deserves affection, while his father, who was busy carrying firewood, then asked for help. Wesley tried to help but was scolded for not listening together late at night. Wesley brought his favorite toy to the warehouse. The man served him seriously without giving him a chance to win. Wesley became annoyed and scattered the board. The man said that he would not let him win because he only felt sorry for Wesley, then ordered him to sit back down while learning from reality. He would be trained to be ready to face the future. After several games, the man saw boogers on Wesley's head. He was surprised, then understood that Wesley, who was deaf, must always be bullied. The man ordered him to take some things to defend himself. By putting a hard object in his bag, the man taught Wesley to use it as a weapon. Wesley was then ordered to hit it with all his might, but he was not used to it, so the man scolded him. Finally, after several tries, Wesley managed to swing his bag with burning anger. That night, the man ended the training by inviting Wesley to talk. He said that one radical decision could change his whole life. The next day, the long-awaited execution day arrived. The class thug started to act to bully him. While remembering the man's words, Wesley then stood firmly without fear, his right hand tightly gripping the bag as ordered. Wesley's piercing gaze made the bully lower his smile. Now there was only one thing left, namely to vent his anger with a blow. But apparently Wesley still had a heart and let the bully retreat in fear. Wesley then went home with great enthusiasm. A car was parked in the yard, which turned out to be the city police. He said that 4 of the 5 robbers had been caught. Only one person was left who they believed was hiding somewhere. Wesley was shown a picture of the criminal, who was none other than the man in his warehouse. Seeing Wesley silent without any response, the police asked Wesley's mother to leave for a moment. Privately, he then began to tell a story while Wesley noticed that his neighbors used to like to feed wild animals. They even took care of baby lions from a young age with great attention, until when the lions grew up, they were finally eaten as meat. After preparing everything, Wesley then quietly went out without a sound. That night, he realized that one of the man's fingers was missing. The man also told him that a tiger had snatched him. However, this incident did not make the man sad or desperate. He preferred to rise by learning how to hunt in the jungle. Until when the time came, he immediately went to the tiger and ripped open its stomach. He squeezed the heart of his prey until it became a ruby. Since then, no tiger has dared to touch him. The story really inspired Wesley. After school, he then blackened one of his own fingers, while the police were still searching every building they could find. Every time Wesley came home, he would go straight to the warehouse. He was happy to be able to share lessons with the understanding man. Only with him could Wesley laugh freely without any burden and forget his sadness. The two of them even played together like a pair of friends. A moment later, the ball that fell was immediately chased by Wesley. But it turned out that there was a policeman, so he was immediately smothered by the man. Fortunately, the police did not suspect anything and decided to leave. When midnight arrived, Wesley came back down as usual. But it turned out that his father was still awake, so Wesley just fell silent. While half drunk, his father complained about his tractor being damaged. Likewise, their TV was also not working normally. His annoyed father then hit the TV with all his strength. The next day, when delivering goods to the warehouse, the man saw Wesley's gloomy attitude as if he was afraid. It turned out that his eyes were bruised from being caught red-handed last night. The man then understood that the perpetrator had to be taught a lesson. Wesley's mother was certainly very upset about what her husband had done, but Ronnie argued that she did not mean it because she had been shocked. Wesley could only be patient, even though he had become a victim of his venting. After finishing eating, Wesley's mother cried in her room alone. Meanwhile, towards evening at a bar, Ronnie, who was hanging out, then went out. An unknown man came to finish his business. While at school the next day, Wesley was called because of family matters. He was then taken to the hospital where his mother was seen in tears. Apparently, his father was in a coma. All the tests made Wesley's mother restless. Unlike her son, who knew that his heartache had been vented, that night Wesley immediately went to the man. He told him about his daughter named Annabelle, who was the same age as Wesley. The man said that he wanted Wesley to one day ride with him towards the sunset, just the three of them, without anyone getting in the way of his dreams. The fantasy made Wesley really imagine even during class hours. All he thought about was the man's story about the beautiful future Wesley with the man and Annabelle riding towards the sunset. After school, Wesley, who returned to visit the hospital, saw many police there. They apparently had gotten the characteristics of the perpetrator from his father's statement. When they were in the warehouse together, the man showed Wesley a suspicious car. He said that the car had passed by several times. The situation became even more restless as night approached. Wesley was woken up from sleep by the sound of a helicopter flying. From the window, a police car was seen patrolling in the distance. 24 hours later, Wesley, who got out, was then approached by the man. He asked if Wesley had told the police his whereabouts. Wesley said that he had never told anyone about the man. Late at night, Wesley prepared to go to the warehouse. He then found the man calling to be picked up tomorrow night. It was no longer safe for him to stay in hiding for long. Knowing this, Wesley's heart was filled with sadness. His eyes were filled with tears as if saying that he didn't want to be left behind. The man tried to strengthen Wesley to stay strong as he taught him. Last night, Wesley prepared the game board to spend his last moments with his friend. However, his mother then came and sat beside her beloved son. She apparently poured out her feelings for all the trials that God had given. Wesley hugged his mother to strengthen each other. Together, late at night, Wesley then went downstairs to play with his best friend. The man did not expect that that night Wesley would be able to defeat him. After that, Wesley accompanied the man while waiting for the old driver to pick him up. Not long after, the man's phone rang and a vehicle was seen from the window. While holding back tears, the man thanked Wesley for everything. He handed over the game board as a souvenir to be kept. But Wesley, who was unwilling, hugged his best friend for a long time. The man then pushed Wesley forcibly because this was the only way. Wesley ran out feeling hurt. However, suddenly someone hugged Wesley and led him into the vehicle. It turned out that the old driver had worked with the police to catch the fugitive. Wesley could only scream as he watched his best friend being killed in the encirclement. A few days later, life went back to normal. The experience of joy and sorrow has shaped Wesley to be more mature. He who did not want to lose his memories then took the game board that had fallen near the warehouse. Wesley was then surprised to see a gift from his friend. Wesley immediately ran into the house where it turned out that his father had come home. After giving a hug, he then went into the room. The red ruby ring from the man was held with full appreciation. And the video ended. See you in the next video.